Let us turn our Bibles today to Psalms chapter 23, verse 1. Psalm 23, in fact, that's one of my favorite Psalms. The reason being is it speaks so much about what God desires to do over people who are connected to Him. Let's meditate on verse 1 today. David writes there, the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. That means what he's saying is Yahweh. That means the self-existent God. You see, when you talk about God, we need to understand that God is a self-existent God. He does not need oxygen to live. He does not need food to survive. He's the self-existent God. He's not dependent on somebody else to exist. He existed forever. There is no DOB, that's date of birth, or DOD, that's the date of death. Definitely when he came in the form of humanity, that is when he took the form of flesh as Jesus, he had a DOB and a DOD, but the good thing is he rose back to life. But in all his divinity, he never had a date of birth or a date of death. He always existed. He's the self-existent God. He does not need anything to survive. Then he goes on further and he says, is my shepherd. Now he's connecting not to a man-made God. He's connecting to the God who made heaven and earth, the God who is forever eternal. But then he says, the Lord is my shepherd. Is, the word is speaks about a present tense. That means God is not just self-existent. He's the ever-present God. He's the now God. He's not just the God of yesterday. He's the God of the now. Whatever the present times may be, He's still God. Sometimes we just wonder how the things are happening around us. We feel so insecure. We feel, will things ever come back to normal? But I want to tell you, God is still the God of the now. When God in the Old Testament, when Moses spoke about God, or the prophets spoke about God, they spoke about the God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob. That means He's the God of the past. He's also the God of the now, and He's the God of the days to come. He's the ever-present God. Time has no bound. He is not bound with time. He's not restricted with time. He's the ever-present God. He does not age. He's the ever-present God. David connected to God. He knew his God was ever-present. He knew his God was forever the same. He knew his God could do amazing things. And that's why he says, the Lord is my shepherd. That means he begins to connect to this God personally. Today I want to ask you, have you connected to God? Have you connected to the ever-present, self-existent, forever alive God, who has no beginning and He has no end? He is the beginning. He is the Alpha. He is the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. In Him, everything exists. David connected to this God. And that's why we see David's life was so amazingly blessed. When you begin to meditate on the life of David in the Old Testament, we get amazed by the way God lifted him up. From a simple shepherd boy to being the king of the nation of Israel. Even in his failures, God still restored him back again. Why? Because he connected. David connected to God. David drew back to God. He went back to God, even in his struggles. Even though there were many who tried to overthrow him from his throne, he was once again restored back because he connected to this ever-present, ever-living God, the self-existent God. He had his own personal relationship with God. Today I want to tell you, if you have your personal relationship with God, no matter what life throws at you, you will always rise back. If you have a relationship with this ever-present God, No matter what surrounds you, even if death surrounds you, you will rise back again. Why? Because God is the God of the impossible. Today I want to encourage you. Draw close to God. Draw near to God. Get into a walk with God. Get into a relationship with God. And you will never be disappointed.